Our next speaker is Cristina Ruano-Chamorro. Cristina, can you please share your screen and turn on your microphone and your camera? There you are. Hello, Cristina. It's good to see you. Cristina is from James Cook University, and her talk is on social inequalities in the co-management of coral reefs, the winners and losers. Thank you, Cristina.
Hello, everyone. Welcome and thanks for coming. So today I'm going to talk about the inequality in the management of coral reefs, the winners and the losers. So as Deborah mentioned yesterday, there are winners and losers in ecological systems, specifically in the coral reefs ecosystems. There are, for example, corals that are more resistant to bleach and more likely to thrive under climate change scenarios, while there are other corals that are more vulnerable to bleaching and therefore more likely to die under these climate change scenarios. But there are also winners and losers in social systems. Specifically, there are winners and losers in small-scale fisheries and the management of this. Because there are fisheries that might be more benefited by these management strategies, while others might bear the cost of management. For example, when there is a fishing closure, such as a marine protected area, there are more fisheries that might have more resources and more skills, and they might be able to go farther away to find other fishing grounds and find other livelihoods, while other fisheries might not have these skills of the resources, and therefore for them will be more difficult to find other fishing grounds and livelihoods, and therefore they will bear the cost of management and be the losers of the management of fisheries. It is important to understand who are the winners and losers in the management of small-scale fisheries and why. Specifically, it's important to understand what are perceptions of inequality. Are fishers perceiving that they are winners? Are they perceiving that they are losers? Because this has implications for well-being and also for attitudes and behaviors. According to the theory of relative deprivation, people compare themselves to others. And that is how we define if we are in relative advantage or in relative disadvantage to a reference group. In other words, if we are winners or we are losers. And this is gonna influence perceptions of social status, which is gonna influence well-being and attitudes and behavior. For instance, when someone feels that is in relative disadvantage to a group, this person might feel that he has a lower status within that group and therefore might feel deprived. Deprivation or relative deprivation is the feeling that you are worse off than the people you compare yourself with, and that have implications for well-being. For example, there are many empirical studies showing that when people have lower income than their neighbors or their co-workers, they might feel deprived and therefore are reduced in life satisfaction. However, when people feel that they have the same income or even more income than their co-workers or neighbors, they might feel more satisfaction with their lives. So relative deprivation can have influence on things like satisfaction, also on health, both mental and physical. It can lead to, for example, anxiety, frustration. But it can also lead to behavior, such as, for example, relative deprivation can lead to criminal behavior. And it can also affect behavior that can have influence on the environment, such as collective action and cooperation, which are essential for the sustainable management of common pool resources, such as fisheries. Another important thing to take into account in this is the theory of the prospect theory. This theory says that we have a cognitive bias when we perceive losses and gains. So the pain of losing something is greater than the satisfaction of an equivalent gain. For example, when we lose money, we feel more pain than the satisfaction we have when we get the same amount of money. And these feelings of pain, because we lost something, create greater reactions than when we win something. And these have implications for behavior and, for example, for the collective action and cooperation. This is especially important in the co-management of coral reefs, because co-management and its success relies on cooperation. So co-management are collaborative arrangements where different stakeholders, such as fishers, government, and NGOs, for example, are involved in the management of resources. They have provided many benefits in terms of biological, social, and economic outcomes. They have been successful in providing or in achieving sustainable fisheries, but also conservation objectives. So they have provided many benefits to fisheries and local communities, and they have been implemented all over the world And today it's a common way of managing small-scale fisheries. They provide benefits to communities, but they can also provide costs. And if these benefits and costs are unequally distributed between individuals, co-management can lead to inequality. And how fishers perceive this inequality, it's important. It's important if they perceive that they are in relative advantage, or if they perceive that they are in relative disadvantage, for example, in comparison to the community where they live, because this can have implications for cooperation and therefore for the sustainable management of coral reef fisheries. Because, for example, feeling that one is a loser can lead to relative deprivation and reduce the willingness of fishers to cooperate. And of course, it's important because it might reduce their well-being. So understanding what are fisher perceptions of relative advantage and disadvantage is important to ensure that the co-management provides benefits to both people and nature. There are several studies looking at inequality, but there are few studies looking at how fishers perceive inequality. So in this study, we are going to look at what are the fishers' perceptions of relative advantage and disadvantage in the co-management of coral reefs. In other words, if fishers perceive that they are winners or losers, and what are the institutional and socioeconomic characteristics that are related to the perceptions of relative advantage and disadvantage. So to answer these questions, we collected data from 5 countries and 43 coral reef co-management arrangements. So these countries were Tanzania, Kenya, Madagascar, Indonesia, and PNG. And we did surveys to almost 800 users, 800 fishers. We also did interviews with key informants and also collected data, for example, census data to get information for other variables that we were interested in. So in order to assess perceived inequality or relative advantage and disadvantage, we asked fishers to indicate the degree to which they felt management had a beneficial or detrimental effect in their livelihoods as an individual and in the livelihoods of the community. So basically, they were self-assessing how they benefit individually for co-management and how the community benefits for co-management. And to do that, they answer this question with a Likert scale. So if they answer 1, it means that the effect is very bad. If they answer 3, it means that it's neutral. And then if they answer 5, it means that it was a very good benefit in their livelihoods or the livelihoods of the community. To calculate perceived inequality, we subtracted how the individual feels or perceives the community benefits to how the individual feels he benefits. So if we take into account the previous question, we are using the question A to measure individual benefits, question B to measure how the individual thinks the community benefits. So this is an hypothetical density distribution of the data. It's theoretical. I just wanted to show that perceived inequality can range from -5 to 5. And the value of 0 means that the person or the fishers thinks that he benefits equally to the community. If it ranges from 1 to 5, means that this person feels that he's in relative advantage or better off than the community, and in relative disadvantage on worse off than the community. So here we have the winners and the losers. We split the data in 2 groups. In one group, we look at perceived inequality that goes from 0 to 5. And in another, we look at relative disadvantage in one group of data, and the other group of data, we look at relative advantage. And we use 2 binomial models to understand these perceptions. So the first model is looking at perceptions of relative disadvantage versus equality, and we call it like this. And the second model looks at perception of relative disadvantage versus equality. And we look at different covariates that theoretical and empirical work have shown that these are important for the successful co-management of fisheries. And because inequality can influence co-management of fisheries, we thought that we expect these variables to have an effect also in perceived inequality. So this is the actual distribution of the data. And we can see here is that most fishers perceive that the system is equal. So they feel that they benefit equally to the community. Some fishers still perceive that they are in relative advantage, and some fishers perceive that they are in relative disadvantage. But what are the things that make these fishers think that? What are the conditions? So here we have the 2 models. These are the distributions that I just split it in 2, but it's the same as the one before. And we found that distance to market was positively related to relative disadvantage. This means that those people who lived in communities farther away from markets were more likely to perceive that they were losers. Population size was positively related to both relative disadvantage and relative advantage, which means that communities with higher population size, people there were more likely to perceive that they were winners and also losers. Participation in community events was positively related to relative disadvantage, and wealth was negatively related to relative disadvantage, which means that those people who were wealthier were less likely to feel that they were losers. And gear restrictions was the only one institutional design variable that was related to these variables and was negatively related to relative disadvantage. So reducing the feeling of relative disadvantage is very important for management because it might influence human well-being and also the successful of co-management arrangements or the success of co-management arrangements due to relative deprivation. So there are several strategies that can be suggested from this study to reduce relative disadvantage. And one, for example, could be to use gear restrictions or reduce poverty and increase wealth. Another one could be increase access to markets. However, when we focus on increasing equality or reducing the relative disadvantage, we have to take into account what are the trade-offs of increasing equality because it can have negative consequences in other dimensions. For example, there are studies that show that access to markets can lead to the overexploitation of coral reefs. So therefore, we need to find a balance between equality, ecosystem sustainability, and well-being in order to inform policies that do no harm, leave no one behind, and protect nature. Thank you.